So I want to introduce you to Ben and Rachel. It's so good to have you with us. Come on up, and come on up, Sam, and we will... So this morning we're just going to give you guys an opportunity to meet them, to hear their heart, and to hear some of the things that God's doing in that area of the world. Maybe I'll start, just if you guys want to introduce yourselves.
Yeah, my name is Ben. This is my wife Rachel, and there on the screen is our 3 kiddos who are actually downstairs teaching right now about what their life looks like in the Middle East. So twin daughters and our son are there.
Yeah, so tell us about how God called you to the region that you live in.
Yeah, Cole's Notes version for your sake, but basically both Rachel and I in our youth and then through our young adults had discerned a call that the Lord was leading us overseas. Didn't quite know what that looked like independently yet, but we're both a part of communities much like CA Church, where people fostered that desire within us, helped us discern what that looked like, and then as we came together, we're able to collectively discern. And in the midst of all that was happening globally, especially within the Middle East, our hearts were just burdened pretty profoundly. So in that, we reached out to our denomination, the Alliance of Canada, and started in conversations with leadership, and really felt like the Lord opened the door for us to go on a vision trip and see what was happening there with the local Alliance Church, which is your local partners here. And then just were so motivated and overcome by what the work was there, by their hearts. And yeah, that's how we got there. Cole's Notes version.
Mm-hmm. So cool. Well, it's great to have you guys here, and this is your, 3rd service of 4 today, so, and they did an event on Friday, and you were here on Saturday at the men's breakfast, so we're working them hard while they're here.
That's good, we like it.
So good. But why don't you tell everyone here what just a little bit about what ministry is like on the ground? What's some of the stuff you guys are part of?
Yeah, I'll take this one, I guess. Okay. Yeah, so like I said, we work alongside our local partners. What was happening there was happening long before we got there, and continues in our absence, and it's amazing. So we get to be a part of a local congregation there, a small local congregation, led by local leaders. So much of the same kind of things that happen within CA Church happens there as well. There's youth ministry and children's ministry and prayer, and there's counseling that happens and pastoral home visits, all of that. But the church is also very intentional, much like CA Church, about reaching outside of the doors as well. So one of the things that CA is involved in is the food distributions into persecuted minority villages. And the church and the local leaders see these as tools, as a key to be able to open the door to share the gospel in places where few or none have heard. Wow. So it's beautiful as we get to journey alongside him and to do some of these food distributions in some of the villages. The team came and saw that as well. In the winter months, whenever it's actually, I know it sounds like the Middle East, but it actually gets freezing cold, to be able to bring kerosene and provide warmth. And everywhere that we go, the pastor is sharing the gospel.
Yeah, and his wife also has started a ministry. About 10 years ago, she opened up the Hope Center. Because of all of the war and activity in the area that we're living, many people were displaced. And so she opened up a center for women to come and just to be valued and to learn about the trauma that they experienced, and just give them a safe place to be who they are. And so those are some of the things that the local church is involved in. But since then, we've also been able to expand some of those things just by God's grace. So unfortunately, in the middle, or about 6 months into our time there, there was a large fire in one of the IDP camps. And Ben was able to be there to help put out the fire and make sure people were safe. And that started a relationship where he was able to meet some people that are in leadership in that area. And then at the same time, CA Church reached out to us and said, we heard about this fire, how can we help? And you were able to send a donation, which started some of the cleanup and the rebuilding of the tents that were lost. So around 200 tents and families lost their homes. They lost everything after 8 years prior, losing everything already before. So this was significant. And so Ben was able to project manage the rebuild of 200 semi-permanent structures. which were an incredible blessing to these people. And then from there, he continued relationship with the management there, and one day was called into the office, and they said to him, "You're different. There's something different about you. We like what you do. We like the way that you engage with the people here. We would like you to have a permanent a presence in the camp.
Wow.
We have a center for you." And so this was actually one of the dreams of our local partner. She had shared with us months before that as much as her center in the city was doing incredible things, there was a need for a center within the camp. And she was like, "I don't know how that's going to happen, but I know God will provide." And so here, a few months later, we were able to give her the keys to this center, and she was able to continue her programming within the center. Or within the camp. So that has been an incredible gift as well. And then about a year later, there was another fire. Fires, the electrical system is not great where we are, and so it often creates fires. And there was another fire in another camp, and we were able to respond with some fridges and water systems and things like this, and we're offered another center. And so now we have 3 centers, Hope Center,
Wow.
Peace Center, and Grace Center.
That's so cool.
2 of them within the IDP camps, where our local partners are able just to continue to share God's love with the women there.
That's awesome. And yeah. And you already mentioned a little bit of what happens in those centers. Could you expand on that a little bit? What's going on in those?
Yeah, for sure. So we do some trauma-informed programming. So women come in groups of 10, and they spend about 7 to 10 days with us, learning just about what trauma is, what does it do to us, how do we respond to our grief, and just the reactions that we have, and then just teaching them how to love themselves through it. I think they carry a lot of shame and self-doubt. And so trying to walk them through some of that. We also do some skills training, something basic, knitting, crocheting, sewing, hair and makeup. Really whatever the women want to learn, we bring that to them.
Cool.
And then we also have engagement groups where we're starting to do something a bit new and invite the women to do, volunteering. So a couple weeks ago, we were picking up litter in the camp. We do art or painting or crocheting and knitting again, just lots of different stretching exercises, just anything to engage them in something different than their regular routine.
Very cool. And probably very empowering for them too, right? To learn some of these skills and be able to bring those into the community. You talked a little bit about the need to create a safe space for women. What is the kind of climate, especially for followers of Jesus, over there where you guys are?
Yeah, that's a good question. Hard one. The climate for the local believers there, it's under an oppressive kind of cover. So for someone to even enter into a church there, they need to understand the cost, and they do understand the cost. They're watched by their families, they're watched by their communities, they're watched by internal security as well. So there isn't a lot of freedom to move and to celebrate. We work across 5 different people groups, and each one of those people groups that we work across faces some form of persecution for even coming into a church. So it is a challenge to foster an environment. The local church does an amazing job. There's about 50 believers that meet 50 to 60 on a regular Sunday, but the church itself is much bigger. And like I said, our local pastor, he's reaching out. There's home groups, there's discipleship groups that are happening within safe spaces outside of the church walls.
Right, so someone typically wouldn't just come in and check out a church like they might on ours on a Sunday morning.
Yeah, we're not looking at seeker-sensitive type
No,
services.
right.
No, it's really challenging.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so you'd start by going into their homes and meeting or praying or those sorts of things. Wow. Can you tell us a highlight or a story of impact that you guys have experienced on the ground?
Yeah, I'd love to share one that directly involves you, CA Church. So, like Rachel shared, after the fire, because of your generous donations, we were able to employ 18 local guys that were directly impacted by that fire. Wow. And over the course of the time, we were able to build a relationship with them. So I was project managing the actual reconstruction effort, but I was also attending full-time language study. So in the morning, I would go to the site and be with the guys, but would need to go to language lessons. And one of the guys really rose up, that's the proper English, rose up in the midst of this time together, and I was able to trust him with more and more opportunities, more and more leadership of the actual thing. And he became the foreman for the site. His name is Khalil. And over the course of that time, the 2 months of rebuilding all of these structures, we really formed a relationship. And one day he invited me into his home to meet his family, his wife, and his 2 daughters. And that was a beautiful thing. And from there, I was able to invite Rachel and our kids together, and we've formed this beautiful friendship where we do life together now. One of the things that's happened as a result of just the intentionality over 3 years is they've started to ask questions. Khalil less so, but his wife Daria has asked lots of questions about hope, about love, about who it is that loves them. And she wants to read the Gospels. But again, we talk about a challenging atmosphere in which we live in. She can't have a paper copy of the Scriptures. Because Khalil's not ready for that yet, and if someone from the community sees that, there's huge persecution that could happen for them, even martyrdom potentially. So she is very careful about how that looks, and even mobile phone applications, phones are open and people can see what's on those. So we need your prayers in that as we continue to creatively address solutions and meet with Daria and feed that hunger that she has to know our Lord and Savior.
Wow, that's cool.
Well, you guys both said you were stirred to think about mission as young people in your churches, and maybe there's people here who are thinking about that. And so cross-cultural mission can be challenging. So what are some attitudes or qualities that make a good cross-cultural missionary?
Yeah, I think openness, curiosity, definitely needs to come from a passion of knowing Him and wanting to serve Him. He's blessed us to be a blessing to many. Love of God and love of people, right? So for sure, need to have that, internalize that, understand that. But as we go into different cultures, we need to be willing to explore what does that mean. We serve across 5 different people groups within where we are, and each culture is uniquely different. And we need to be curious about each one of those ones and start to understand them. And as you become curious and as you ask questions, there's an openness that comes with that, and you can uniquely address and speak into the life of that. And contextualization is huge. Being able to know the Scriptures and know the Lord in such a way that you can speak into other cultures is important. And humility. That is an important attribute that needs to be happen. If you think that you have all the right answers, you will quickly be proved wrong. So being humble, whether it happens before you go or whether it happens on the field, it comes.
Can you tell us a bit about some of the different people groups you work with?
Yeah, so we work across 5 different people groups, and while I'm not going to name them here on the Sunday, you can ask us after in the foyer. But each one of these people groups is deeply rooted in the land there. And there's lots of pain points between the different people groups. Some of these people groups are even mentioned in Scripture. So there's a deep, deep history there. And each one of these people groups has faced war and persecution, and there's a deep distrust between these different groups. So there's no one group that is open. There's no one group that is more trusting. There's no one group that is more receptive. It's a challenging place to work, for sure.
Okay, so I know when I was there, I noticed that there were people from many of those different people groups worshiping together on a Sunday, which was incredible. So what does it take to form, for the church itself to reach out and form partnerships and relationships across these ancient rivalries?
Yeah, it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of listening, spending time with people, and really hearing their stories and understanding the history of the area that we're in. And then it takes trust. And so putting yourself in a position where someone is able to trust you, giving them the benefit of the doubt, and giving them a space for them to be who they are and within their own culture, because there's so many cultures that are trying to overtake. And so giving them that value that they matter, their culture matters, their families matter. Yeah.
That's good. What are some of the unique challenges that you guys have faced? I'm sure there's been moments of great joy and fulfillment, but probably lots of discouragement and hopelessness as well. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, like we've said a few times now, we work across multiple different cultures and people groups, and that also brings different languages. And so one of the challenges is language. So we chose, along with our local partners, which language out of the 4 or 5 that we could have chosen, we chose a bridge language. So we took a language that a lot of people know at least a little bit of this language, so that we would be able to speak with more people. That was our heart, was to be able to communicate with a lot of people. But for others, or for some locals, that was the wrong choice. And so one of the challenges is the only way to speak to them is in the language that we learned, but they don't appreciate it. And so trying not to make that a very difficult thing for us, but also recognizing that's the history of the area we are and being respectful to them. So, you know, we spent 2 years in full-time language study of one language, but we are definitely working on a second language because of the importance that is for the people that we're working with. But that's definitely a challenge. Even our kids are learning two languages in their school. So.
Yeah, I think one of the other challenges is just the state of hopelessness that exists within the people there. My generation, our generation, has known, all the people have known there is war after war after war. So there's internal struggles, there's external struggles, so there's a deep lack of trust and a deep feeling of hopelessness. And one of the things that our local pastor is always asking for prayer about is just that as people come to know the Lord, as they come to understand what does true hope look like and who that looks like, that they would be inclined to stay and share that as well. Because one of the challenges is, as people come to faith, they still want to leave. There's a desire to leave the country in which they're in, and there isn't a lot of believers that want to stay and address the needs within their own cultures. So a shortage of workers. The harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few.
Okay, well, I'm sure there's lots of other challenges you could share with us, but what are some areas where you're seeing the kingdom break in, where you're seeing evidence of God at work where you are?
Yeah, I would say through our local partners and the work that they're doing in the centers, watching these women go from just having no self-confidence to hearing about God and his love for them, and then engaging in different activities that help them start to learn more about themselves and have more confidence in themselves is an incredible thing. Watching our local partner just pray for these women in situations, there's often fainting spells and things like this, and she'll just pray over them for 15, 20 minutes at a time while they're recovering from this. And she's just, they're in my space, I'm going to pray for them. And she has seen them healed from these fainting spells and things like this. I know the pastor as well he gets called all the time to be engaged in prayer with people and to help counsel and lead and guide different families and individuals. And he's also been involved in releasing people from demonic oppression. So all of these things are happening, and it's not, it's not announced from the stage, but it is happening every day of the week. There is something happening that he's breaking chains and he is making moves.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, I would say as much as we can, we want to highlight our local partners, and just the Lord is using them powerfully, and the local church as well. There's a boldness that they have, and they continue to share that within the community. So yeah, there's some pretty powerful, miraculous stuff that's happening as well, but there's also small things, powerful things, where just the boldness that they have to share the gospel in a place where before they didn't. Seeing that, even that growth and the inbreaking of the kingdom in a new way in their own lives as believers is pretty cool as well.
Very cool. Very cool.
So how has your time there changed you? How has it changed your family, the way you form friendships, your faith?
Yeah, it's a different culture, obviously, and they're actually a night culture. So we've had to make some adjustments as a family. Kids playing out soccer in the streets at 1:00 in the morning, and
Wow.
our kids haven't quite adjusted to that. But visits going late into the night. We often go to our local friend's house, and we'll be there till 11:30 at night with our kids having school the next day. And so family life has changed a little bit here and there, but also.
Also, I think also there's this idea that we as a family have figured out what it means to work well together. One of our hopes and our prayers was that as a family, this wouldn't just be Rachel and I bringing our kids along, that they would desire to be a part of the ministry too, and they are. As you can see the pictures here, they've started to internalize this and started to ask questions and be more intentional about their time as well, and that's really shaped us as well. And I think for us to continue to model to them, what does it mean to be intentional about our daily struggles as well? Regularly, there's a need to discern. Because we don't have all the answers. And like I said, working across 5 different people groups, it is challenging to know what to do. But the need to push into the Lord and ask him, Lord, what are you doing in this moment? How would you want me to respond? Be more intentional about that, more aware of that. And then at the end of every day, being more reflective. Saying, Lord, where did I see you show up today? And where are those places where I took control, where I should have let you lead? That's been a change and a growth opportunity for us.
Mm-hmm. How has the church in Canada, and then even specifically CA Church, been involved in what you guys are doing?
Yeah, you guys have been involved from the beginning, and I love that. I think it's really important that you, CA Church, you know that. You are there. Ultimately, we get to be the hands and feet of your church. Ultimately, the Lord's hands and feet there, but of CA Church as well. You're here and you're in it in partnership. You guys have been providing food to families and communities where they wouldn't have had food before, and that in and of itself is a miracle. You guys have been involved through the Christmas offering that you did to build homes. Now we're able to go and construct those homes, work alongside guys like Khalil, and be able to share with them in the construction aspect, but also be able to do home visits afterwards and sit with them and share with them, and then invite them into the centers and have more touch points with local believers. And that's all a result of what you guys have done and your generosity in prayer and in finances. So thank you, church, for that.
And that's one of the homes we just built with the money that was given at Christmas.
Yeah. I mean, if you want a quick story about that family, one of the things that we've been doing is there are so many families within that camp, and we have to address the most vulnerable. Everyone needs shelter, but we need to look at the most vulnerable, and that is a family where the husband actually left to go have another wife, and left the wife and 2 children alone. And there's, as Rachel indicated before, there's a lot of shame, cultural pressures that happen there. And she was kind of excommunicated from her family because the husband left her. So to be able to give her a safe place and the kids a safe place to be, something that they wouldn't have had otherwise, and to be able to meet with them and then also invite them into the program where they're able to see and hear about that they're made in the image of God, and that there is a God that loves them and cares for them. That's all a result of you guys and your generosity and your giving. So thank you.
Oh, that's really cool. Can you show the picture of what the camp looked like before, when it was all burned as a result of the fire, and then as a result of all the homes that have been built? Wow.
Yeah. So each one of those homes, each one of those shelters represents a community, a small family. And we get to be a part of their lives, some more so than others, of course, but those have been little touch points where the kingdom has been
seriously.
Fingerprints of God along the way, and fingerprints of your church. So thank you.
Oh, very cool. As you look at the year ahead, the years to come as well, what are you most excited about?
Yeah, we're excited about expanding the programming. We have a lot of ideas coming with just the different women and the different circumstances that they've been in and recognizing their needs, and also what they want to learn about. We're looking at how to expand these things and offer these different programmings and topics and things like that for them. You can share about that.
Yeah, so in that, some of those are men's programming. Right now we don't have men's programming. We've been addressing the needs of the women, but there's also deep pain and trauma within the lives of men too. So how do we do that? And how do we raise up men that want to serve their families and care for them well? So that's one of the things. Also, more opportunities for touch points within the host communities, the communities that host these IDP camps, internally displaced people camps. So things like a sheep project where the community is blessed with sheep, and then we take the wool, we spin the wool, we dye the wool, and then use the wool in the knitting and crocheting projects, and trying to build greater sustainability, but also greater touch points for the local church to be able to reach into these places. So these are things that we're excited about.
So cool. Well, thank you guys so much for taking time to share with us today. And I'm just so inspired by the two of you and your family. Like, I know you're from South Surrey, and we're raising your family here, and the courage that it takes to uproot your family and to move across the globe to another place to serve and to be the hands and feet of Jesus there. So honor you guys and so inspired by you, and thankful for the stories and the opportunity for us to, through you and your ministry and the local church there, to get to make a small impact on some of those communities is quite a gift, and so we're so thankful for that.